But this was not the real attack. It was the breach. A loud distraction drawing all eyes to the front door of this war. Preloaded terrain data was their map in the darkness. For 50 kilometers, the military operation was flawless. That was about to change. Unknown to the operators, an M.24 attack helicopter on patrol detected engine noise. The pilot was already turning toward them. His weapons were hot. But these drones were not alone. 2 Neptune missiles roared to life, a brilliant, fiery ascent. Every Russian radar from the border to Moscow lit up. They acquired lock, exactly as planned. This was the key to an impossible act of modern warfare. The first Neptune climbed toward 15,000 feet. Its radar cross-section was the size of a small car. No stealth, a blatant challenge. A Russian S-400 battery answered. The operator locked on. Training dictates the response. Engage the obvious threat first. His advanced defense system could track dozens of targets. But right now, only one missile mattered. Far below, the lead drone held its course through the valley, steady at 200 meters. Its altimeter checked altitude against terrain data 10 times per second. No electronic pings. This was pure offline warfare. The drone navigated like a submarine by depth and compass. Behind it, 7 more followed, a wolf pack of advanced weapons maintaining separation. They had to avoid creating a single large radar return. Drone 5's sensor flared, power lines 200 meters ahead. The processor executed a pre-programmed climb. It cleared the cables by 3 meters, then dove. The other troops in the air followed in sequence, the swarm's network learning the path. As the drones navigated the obstacle, the second Neptune dropped to treetop level. A shadow, moving at speed. It threaded between hills at 900 kilometers per hour. The radar altimeter screamed warnings. The missile's job was to be seen, but not yet. Drone 1's acoustic sensor registered its passage 2 kilometers south. The sound was a distinctive part of this global conflict, but the Neptune was pure misdirection. The Russian army was distracted, their eyes fixed on the decoy. The real threat went unnoticed. The S-400 held its lock. 2 interceptors launched. They tore through the air, pulling 30 Gs. The intercept was textbook, a brutal war analysis in 8 seconds. The Neptune disintegrated at 15,000 feet, a cloud of expensive shrapnel. In the command post, the soldiers cheered, until one of them noticed. The second Neptune had vanished. It dropped below the radar horizon. A simple, unavoidable fact of defense technology. Radar cannot see through the Earth. The missile was now at 50 feet, a ghost to every defense system searching the sky. But this was a feint, a calculated distraction in this new era of modern warfare. The real attack was coming from somewhere else entirely. No one was watching the windows. This was the strategy. As the second Neptune continued, Drone 2's camera detected vehicle movement. A convoy on the M3 highway. 3 BTRs heading northeast. The drone's processor deemed them non-critical. It held its course. But on the ground, a soldier had stepped away. He heard the buzz overhead. He keyed his radio. Multiple low-flying aircraft heading northeast. Within 30 seconds, Sector Command was triangulating. The math was simple. 8 contacts on a vector to the pipeline station. The drones scattered, executing programmed evasion patterns. 6 through 8 broke north, hugging the railroad. 3 through 5 dove into the valley. 1 and 2 stayed high. They were the bait, a role for the toughest Marines. Drone 4's infrared camera went white. Helicopter exhaust, 8 kilometers astern and closing. The Air Force was here. The Mi-24's turbines were a blowtorch on the sensor. The processor ran the numbers. Hostile speed, 280. Drone speed, 150. Intercept in 3.7 minutes. Mission timer, 9 minutes to target. This military update was becoming critical. Right on cue, the second Neptune pulled up from the deck, climbing hard toward 5,000 feet. Every radar reacquired. Alarms screamed across 3 provinces. But why reveal its position now, a mere 10 kilometers from the objective, unless the pipeline was a feint? From the clouds, the Mi-24 Hind descended. The pilot, a veteran of the Afghan War, was pulled from retirement, a stark indicator of Russia's dwindling pool of experienced Air Force aviators. His gunner was a new generation, raised on simulators. He was about to receive a brutal lesson. Modern warfare is not a game. They were on a routine patrol. Then, a sharp command from sector control, multiple low-altitude contacts. Their new orders were simple: eliminate the threat. Through the optical sight, the gunner scanned the dim horizon. No thermal imaging, no advanced defense technology, just his Mark I eyeballs, straining in the failing light. The targeting beam sliced across the valley floor. The chin-mounted turret was slaved directly to his helmet's movement. Where his eyes went, the weapons followed. A devastating system for engaging the Army's tanks in broad daylight, less effective against a suitcase-sized target in the gloom. The drone darted through the half-light. The Hind answered, its 12.7mm Yak-B Gatling gun spitting a stream of tracers into the empty air. The weapon's rate of fire was immense, 4,000 rounds per minute. But firepower is meaningless without a clear target. This is a constant in global conflict. Drone 2's sensors registered the supersonic crack of rounds passing overhead. It had no evasive protocols for this kind of warfare. It simply flew on a ghost in the gunner's optics. The problem wasn't speed, it was geometry. At this range, the target tore across the reticle, a fleeting blur. The turret couldn't slew fast enough. The gunner was always a half-second behind. His targeting system needed contrast, and a stable range he had neither. Tracers vanished into the morning haze before he could walk them onto the target. To compensate, the pilot had to yaw the entire aircraft. He rode the pedals, pushing the engine, flirting with an aerodynamic stall. The Hind wasn't outmatched by speed. It was being defeated by angles, latency, and pure physics. Finally, 3 rounds found their mark: center mass. It was more luck than skill. The drone's telemetry feed went dead. Wreckage tumbled into a wheat field below. 1 target eliminated, 7 remained. The gunner's pride was short-lived. The pilot's voice crackled. They had expended 400 rounds on a single drone. A costly exchange for these troops. At this rate, they'd be Winchester before engaging half the swarm. Meanwhile, drones 3, 4, and 5 navigated a river valley. Then, an obstacle. A bridge dead ahead. Too low to pass under, no time to divert. The lead drone's processor initiated an emergency climb. All 3 machines ascended in perfect, sudden unison. They broke cover like flushed prey. But the Hind was waiting. The pilot switched weapon systems, selecting the S-8 rocket pods, 80mm unguided rockets, 20 per pod. Gross overkill for targets this small. But subtlety was not in the doctrine. These modern weapons were designed for area suppression, turning entire grid squares into lunar landscapes. It was the equivalent of using a sledgehammer to kill a fly. But when precision fails, overwhelming force becomes the only option for these soldiers. 4 rockets launched in a fiery ripple. Drone 4 was instantly atomized. A moment later, Drone 5 was peppered by shrapnel, its port wing shredded. It lost all stability. The internal gyroscope fought to correct, but the damage was catastrophic. The machine spiraled into the river below. 3 down, but Drone 3 cleared the bridge, diving back into the terrain. The Mi-24 lost visual in the ground clutter. The drone's navigation AI was already plotting. A new course was set. Through narrow canyons where the helicopter's 60-foot rotor arc made pursuit impossible. The war analysis was clear. The drone had the advantage here. For the last 3 minutes, the second Neptune missile had been playing a deadly game, cresting the radar horizon just long enough to trigger defense systems alerts, then disappearing. Now, it began its terminal phase, climbing to 3,000 feet, just 8 kilometers from the target. Every radar screen in the sector lit up with warnings. The Pantsir, Sone battery commander, had been waiting. The target was finally high enough, close enough. He had a solid lock. The Pantsir's fire control computer calculated the intercept. The solution was found in less than a second. 4 57E6 missiles erupted from their tubes, each pulling 20 Gs as they clawed their way toward the incoming Neptune. It was a massive show of force. 1 missile would have sufficed. But after the humiliation of the first Neptune strike, this military commander was taking no chances. From 440 kilometers out, the intercept was textbook. 4 explosions bloomed into a single, massive fireball, searing the early morning sky for 10 silent seconds. Cheers erupted from the Russian defenders. 2 Neptune missiles down, crisis averted. The battery commander began drafting a glowing report for his military superiors. But in the back of the command bunker, a critical question went unasked. Why would Ukraine expend 2 high-value weapons on a target they knew they couldn't reach? No one asked. The troops were mesmerized by the fading fireball, confident in their superior defense systems, a fatal overconfidence. And that's when drones 6, 7, and 8 screamed in from the north, hugging the railroad tracks at 50 meters, invisible to every sensor now pointed south at the spectacle. Then, a proximity sensor on one drone screamed a warning. Another helicopter, a Predator, rising from the tree line. 2 kilometers dead ahead. A smart tactical move, but the drone's engine is a whisper, a lawnmower in the wind. The helicopter's turbines were a roar, drowning all sound for a kilometer. The gunner in the second Mi-24 made a veteran's choice. He killed the searchlight, switching his view to infrared, hunting for the faint, warm glow of the drone's motors. Against the cooling earth, their silhouettes were stark, black cutouts against the dawn. Drones 6, 7, and 8 were suddenly exposed, naked to the enemy. The gunner opened fire with his 12.7mm cannon. This crew was different, better trained. This was a professional soldier at work. Controlled bursts, not wild sprays. Tracers walked onto the target. Drone 6 shuddered as rounds tore through its structure. 3 slugs ripped through the fuselage. It flew on, but it was bleeding, losing altitude as the processor fought a losing battle against severed control lines. Drone 7 banked violently left, executing its only programmed evasion, a random vector change every 3 seconds. A desperate gamble of its defense technology. The helicopter banked with it, fixated on the kill. But this obsession with Drone 7 meant Drone 8 was now clear, continuing its dead-straight run to the tank farm. 2 helicopters, 3 drones. The grim arithmetic of this global conflict meant someone was getting through. The first Mi-24 was still on Drone 3. Ammunition running low, down to 300 rounds. Frustration building. The pilot tried to raise the second gunship, but their radios were on different frequencies. A classic failure in military command and control. 2 helicopters, now 2 separate battles, burning fuel and ammunition with zero coordination. A grim military update in the making. The second helicopter's gunner popped another flare. The wind caught it, casting useless light over an empty forest. But while the Air Force assets struggled, Russian army soldiers on the ground were springing the next layer of the trap. 4 Russian troops moved into position on rooftops surrounding the pipeline station. Each soldier carried an Igla-S man-pads, one of the most lethal short-range weapons of the war. Its dual-band infrared seeker was designed to cut through countermeasures, a piece of Soviet-era defense technology built to hunt down anything with wings. The first soldier's seeker swept the sky, searching for a heat signature. The Igla's eye could acquire a jet engine from 6 kilometers. Those engines burn at 600 degrees Celsius, a bonfire on the thermal spectrum. Attack helicopters, cooler, still registered 400 degrees. Even the small drone's engine glowed at 300 degrees. But the seeker saw nothing. Drone 3 was only 800 meters out, but its tiny piston engine was the key. It was running at maybe 80 degrees above ambient. On a cool morning, that's no hotter than a household machine. A ghost in the infrared world, the Igla needed a 3-degree differential for a solid lock. The drone offered only 2. The soldier could hear the buzz of modern warfare approaching, but his missile was blind. He fired anyway, a shot in the dark. The missile leaped from its tube with a sharp crack. It accelerated hard for 2 seconds, pulling 2 Gs, its guidance system desperately searching for a target that wasn't there. Without a heat signature, the weapon's logic failed. The seeker had nothing. The missile went ballistic, tumbling uselessly through the air like a thrown rock. The launch was a catastrophic failure. A $120,000 piece of defense technology veered wildly off course. The missile slammed into the forest 3 kilometers away, its warhead detonating in a useless, violent spectacle, a stark reminder of the brutal realities of modern warfare. 3 more soldiers engaged from new positions. The result was the same. The missiles screamed off the rails, their seekers hunting for a heat signature. They found nothing. The weapons went dumb. It was a futile effort, a heat seeker against a cold target. These modern weapons were engineered for the inferno of a jet engine, the thermal bloom of a helicopter. Not low-signature drones powered by little more than a whisper. But then, the 4th soldier's missile found its mark, a proximity fuse activation. Engineered to explode within lethal range, it registered a target at 15 meters. The warhead detonated. A sphere of tungsten fragments erupted outwards. Drone 8 flew directly into the kill zone. Shrapnel tore through its starboard wing. The composite skin offered no resistance. Onboard sensors screamed, detecting the asymmetric drag. The primitive flight computer fought for control, applying rudder. But there is no compensating for a shredded airfoil. It lost altitude, wobbling towards the tank farm, but the drone was still in the air. Meanwhile, Drone 1, the decoy, the obvious threat, now forgotten by the troops, reached the main transformer substation. Its IR camera locked onto the target profile, the warhead armed. Suddenly, the forgotten drone became the primary threat. Anonymity had been its greatest weapon. But the defenders had not forgotten. The Zu-23 crews opened fire. Blind muzzle flashes ripped through the darkness. The sky ignited in a lethal display of anti-aircraft fire. But these guns were legacy weapons. Their design predated modern night vision. Aiming meant squinting at crude iron sights illuminated by faint bulbs. Just enough light to see the crosshairs, not enough to see the target. This was warfare by sound and shadow. The gunners aimed at the sound of engines, walking tracers toward the noise. A desperate hope that sheer volume of fire would connect. Every 5th round a tracer, an impressive but ineffective light show. The Shilka's radar painted the drones, but its antiquated computer couldn't process the threat. To the defense system, the slow-moving targets were no different than debris on the wind. The system dropped the track. Reacquired. Dropped it again. The operator desperately switched to manual control. At that moment, Drone 6 impacted the pumping substation at 180 kilometers per hour. 20 kilograms of high explosive tore through the unarmored roof. It detonated amidst the pumps. The concussion wave obliterated every pipe within a 30-meter radius. Fuel erupted, a black geyser atomizing into a volatile cloud. It hung in the air for a single pregnant second. Then, the burning wreckage of the drone provided the ignition source. Drone 3 screamed in from the east. It flew nap of the earth, forced to climb just to clear the perimeter fence. A Zu-23 gunner saw the silhouette against the fires. He traversed the weapon, depressing the trigger. A stream of lead. 3 rounds found their mark. A chance hit on the drone's tail assembly. The processor registered catastrophic control failure. Time to target, 8 seconds. Time to impact from control loss, 8 seconds. In modern warfare, the margins are razor thin. The drone slammed into the control building at terminal velocity. Its warhead detonated inside the facility's nerve center. The computers managing fuel flow to Central Europe were vaporized. Pump controls, valve sensors, emergency shutdowns, all gone. The pipeline was now a runaway system, blind, unstoppable. Fuel that should have been cut off continued to surge. Pressure mounted. A catastrophic failure was imminent. Drone 7 reached tank number 2, its camera locked on the massive steel cylinder. The drone executed a sharp pop-up maneuver, trading airspeed for altitude. For a single, silent moment, it hung at its apogee, nose pointed skyward. Then gravity asserted its command. The drone pitched over, diving vertically. Onboard systems counted down the final meters to impact. The crippled Drone 8 bled altitude, trailing debris as it limped toward tank number 3. A precise strike was impossible now. But at this stage of the war, precision was a luxury. The entire facility was primed to detonate. The drone's battery died 50 meters out. It coasted the final distance on pure momentum, slamming into the tank's base. 2 tanks ruptured in the same instant. But this was no mere leak. This was a BLEV, a boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion. The fuel had no time to spill. It instantly flashed to vapor, expanding 17 times its volume. The physics were simple and terrifying. 10,000 tons of liquid became 17 million tons of explosive gas in less than a second. The shockwave outran a rifle bullet. Across the tank farm, every other container failed in a catastrophic chain reaction, a line of dynamite dominoes. The Stolnoy-Khan pipeline was erased. The Druzhba connection was severed. The global conflict had just escalated. A multi-billion-dollar pipeline neutralized. The weapons responsible, 8 tactical drones. Their cost is less than the national defense budget for 5 seconds. This is the brutal calculus of modern warfare. And that was only the beginning.